All right. Good morning, everyone. Or it's not necessarily morning wherever you guys are listening to our podcast or watching this video in syndication, but nonetheless, welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. As always, I'm your host, Adam Smith with Just the Tips Coaching. And normally you guys would expect to see Jen Wayboer with us, but Jen is not with us. That might be some of the technical difficulty. We're also running a lot of new equipment this week, so bear with us. There's some technical difficulty there. If you guys can't see us or hear us, give us a shout as we're going out live. But hopefully we've got all those bugs sorted out. And we have an amazing guest for you guys this week, Mason Buck. Mason, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Really
Oh,
excited
we're
to be here.
Yeah, no, we're pretty stoked to have you, and we've been doing quite a bit of digging and looking and researching and figuring out all about Mason and so on and so forth. If memory serves, you're actually not too far from here. You're in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Yes, sir, I am. Yep.
Okay, so not too far from our home market of Denver here, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so basically the gist behind this, Mason, and I know you haven't been on the show before, although we do have a lot of repeat guests, is that we try to get a little bit of background about our guest, who you are, how you got into this, those kinds of things. So yeah, give us a little background. What made you think real estate was going to be for you? How long have you been doing it? What were you doing before that? Give us some background, man.
Absolutely. So so growing up, my mom was a mortgage loan officer. So I got to go through the 08, '09 crash and all that stuff. So I saw that. My mom was kind of a hustler, made a ton of money. When the crash happened, kind of went from being spoiled rotten to losing everything. And so I got to experience that. And I think it was like probably 2013, my mom kind of gave me the push and was like, you should take a look at real estate. But I was actually born and raised in Arizona, grew up there most of my life. I ended up moving here my junior year. I graduated from Mesa Ridge in Fountain, Colorado. Um, Kind of got into banking and finance just shortly after that. So I was a personal banker before I got into real estate, and actually got fired from that job while I was working on my license. uh, and that's what kind of pushed me. That's what kind of got me rolling into it. Is my boss at the time had said something to me that kind of fired me up, and I was like, I'm gonna make this real estate thing stick. It took me 6 months online schooling, and I took the test 6 times. I'm not a real good test taker, come to find out. Um, and yeah, it's just been kind of cruising ever since. So 4 years will be April, since I've started. So
Okay. And it's funny that you mentioned that because it's not something that we ever really discuss on the show, but certainly has some significant validity to it. We never talk about the education and examination process for a lot of salespeople, not just real estate agents like you, mortgage originators like us, but a lot of our other coaching clients in the insurance game and the financial planning game. Everybody's got a pretty much a significant and set requirement for education, continuing education, examination, so on and so forth. And the examination process is one of the biggest deals and ordeals that everybody comes across. And maybe I'm wrong, although it certainly sounds like you would agree that even more important than the real estate knowledge, than the mortgage knowledge, is good test taking skills. Really having those skills, knowing how to address that kind of thing, thinking back to college exams or SAT exams. Yes, I'm old. ACT for you guys that are a little younger than I am. The test taking skills are probably just as, if not more important, when doing the initial examination process for any of these licenses.
hmm yeah, no, it's super tough. I mean, I wasn't a scholar to begin with. I dropped out of college for a girl, graduated high school a year late. So I mean, in general, it was hard for me to focus. I think was the big thing. I was focused on other things as I was doing, my school and whatnot. But yeah, definitely the test taking aspect of it is super tough. I don't know if I could pass it again. I probably could with a couple tries and a little bit of practice, though.
I'll bet you could, but okay. Now you sound like a lawyer who's been practicing 20 years, and we know there's no way those guys could pass the bar exam.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is, you become specialized in a particular niche, whatever that may be, and that over every type of scenario knowledge base that you need to have in order to pass those exams is obviously a distant memory at that point. But yeah, that is really cool. So tell me again, how long ago was it that you passed this exam?
What that was probably February of 2017.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So I want to stop right there for just a moment. I do want to get into what the last couple of years, few years now have looked like for you, and obviously focus on some of the content that our audience expects when it comes to lead generation and ideas, tips, tricks, etc. But I want for our audience to know that there's a fairly significant vetting process for our guests on this show, particularly when those guests are real estate agents. We do a lot of research over a long period of time, typically 18 months, to determine whether or not this is somebody that we would think would have good content, have good ideas, tips, tricks, etc. for our audience. And just for you guys watching either live or in syndication or listening to the podcast, you guys need to know that Mason's success, his level of productivity, is really tip top for somebody who's only been doing this 3 or 4 years. That's a really big deal. To go from 0 to 60 in such a short amount of time is really impressive. All right, so tell us how you started. Where did you hang your license to begin? Where are you now? Has there been any change? What does that look like?
There's been definitely some change. So I kind of in the beginning, it's weird, right? Because you're like interviewing them for a job, but you're not actually being interviewed for the job because anyone will take you. But I got certain vibes from certain people. Like I checked Remax, I went to Keller Williams, and I did Cell State. Those were the three I looked at to begin with. Remax, they kind of questioned me. I won't say what office, but they said, do you have a book of business? Do you have a lot of context? I'm sure he's kicking himself in the butt for not being more positive with me in that meeting. But I went to Keller Williams. I met Paul Goldenbogen, who I thought was super awesome. I met with him. I saw everything Keller had as far as like new training and whatnot, and so that was my big thing. Is I passed the test and I really didn't know what to do. Still, I was like, Jesus, I passed everything, but how the heck do I sell a house? So I felt like I was going to get that training and knowledge from Keller Williams. So I joined Keller Williams Partners under Ed Leba, and that's kind of how I started and kind of took off for me from there. I mean, my first 3 months, I think I had 3 listings. And then I ended up joining Ed's team just after that, and I learned a ton.
There's some great names that are being dropped here. Some fantastic people in not necessarily just the production of real estate business world, but in the coaching and mentoring and nursing new agents along space. Some of that we all know comes from Keller Williams. There's a great amount of knowledge base that's been built up for years and years at Keller Williams for new agents to really bridge the gap between what you guys learn in real estate school and what the job actually is, what actually needs to be done once you have your license, and how that's going to play out. In some cases, it's so much education, there's so much content there that it's even hard to go out and practice real estate because there's so much learning to be done. But yeah, absolutely a great spot. I've been through Bold twice. I think there's a lot of really good lead gen content that Gary has built out over, what's probably now decades? Boy, I hate to say that, but because it makes me feel old. Hopefully it makes Gary feel older because he's got a few years on me at least. But yeah, this is a great spot with some great people to really kind of learn the things that the majority of real estate agents going into real estate school don't pick up on. I'm going to do real estate. It's going to be easy. My schedule's going to be flexible. I'm going to make a lot of money. And of course, we know that for the agents that are successful, and certainly those that are as successful as you are in such a short period of time, that's not the case. You've probably had to work your ass off these last 3 or 4 years to get where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that right away. Coming in the office and like seeing other people around me, I was like, I'm gonna have to earn everything as far as this goes. And I felt like, no one was going to hand it to me. I think in the beginning, it looked magical. Like deals just rain down from the sky. Someone picks up the phone. They look up Mason Buck. They call me. I sell my house. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. But no, it's not like that. Definitely super tough, to get your name out there. For me, being young in the business was tough because it was like I hadn't sold any houses. So I was really, in the beginning being like, I've got 200 other agents that are going to help me sell your house. And I really leveraged that. But no, I definitely did. And, in the beginning, I was taking every deal I could get, and I still do. I think that's my mindset I still have. But it's been fun. It's been crazy. I think I got in at a good time in 2017. The market wasn't as crazy as it is now. I see a lot of new agents trying to get into the market as it is today, and I think it's tougher now than when it was when I got in. And the reason being, I think it's kind of the Shark Tank. We're seeing the market stronger than it's ever been, appraisal gaps, all kinds of crazy stuff, and I'm having to leverage my network, friends, off market deals, all kinds of stuff. So definitely working harder than ever for sure today.
Yeah, there's some real truth to that. And I think your timing was just good because you kind of caught the pendulum in the middle of its swing. Obviously, it goes way back and way forth, no question. I remember 15 years ago, gosh, I can't believe that's about accurate. We were heavy on short sales and REOs, and it was a very difficult time. Different, but equally difficult to be a real estate agent then as it is now. Now, of course, it's a ridiculously robust seller's market, major inventory shortage. Negotiations are insane. People are offering and getting, deals done at tens of thousands of dollars above asking price, tens of thousands of dollars in appraisal gaps. It is tough. There's no question, but it's just a different tough. I think you just timed it well, kind of in the calmer part of that pendulum swing. And yeah, it's going to be insane like this for, a while. I'm having a really hard time picturing what's going to go on, and maybe we can discuss a little bit of that. And fortunately, it's not, heavy foreclosures and short sales and REOs and that kind of thing. Those were dark economic days all the way around.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't mind giving us your opinion on it, I mean, I'm watching this in all these major urban markets, right? Denver, Colorado Springs, Atlanta, Miami, Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, on and on. And there's an enormous supply and demand issue. We've got a major housing shortage. That supply and demand issue is driving things up and up and up. And I can really only speak to the local market here, and I'm not a real estate agent, nor am I an expert in real estate by any means. But from what I gather, a healthy inventory, a 6-month inventory for us, is defined by about 30,000 properties for sale at any given time, and we're at about 5,000. Mm-hmm. So we're a long, long way from having that balanced market, having enough housing to satisfy the appetite. Gosh, it could be another decade or two, I don't know. And of course, as this continues on and on and on, I have a fear for what that does long term to the economy. But yeah, I would love to hear your take on it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely crazy. I mean, the resale market right now, with the offers as high as they are, buyers are coming out of pocket 10, 15, 20 grand, huge appraisal gaps. We're seeing crazy stuff. And I think, along with that, I know national inventory is down like 20%. Colorado as a whole, depending on area, is down, 40 to 60% depending on area. So we're, double, sometimes triple what other people are seeing. So our market is super aggressive. And I think since I've got in, we've always had those like lulls of low inventory, right? But this year, like the new home sale boom, I don't think anyone saw that coming. Like most of the builders in town are sold out. As soon as they have lots, they got people just lining up and, taking a slot. I do think that's still your best deal right now. If you ask me, my opinion, I'm always going to give you the new build pitch right now, just because you're not competing on it. And just like you said, builders are raising their prices. The price of wood and OSB went up right after COVID. So some builders in my market are raising the price, $5,000 every other week. So what that does for you as a buyer is going to build that equity. And for you, the quicker you get the house, basically, with that, I think that's a good deal. But some of the resale stuff, I'm not a big fan of it right now, and it's hard to ask a buyer to come out of pocket and do these things, because it sounds crazy, but then they kind of see, when there's a line out the front door, I tell them there's 20 offers on a property. I just had one yesterday that just decided to not go resale, and he's like, I think you're right. We're going to try to build something, but it's crazy. I think it's going to take a long time to catch up, and I'm curious to see what it does. Going into next year, going into the end of this year, I think we're going to see possibly some people phase out of the business too that can't get people under contract and don't have houses to sell. Because right now you're having to be really creative. You really have to know your way of the land, know all of your options. And it's making it definitely super tough for sure. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball as far as that goes, but I think I agree with you. I think it's going to be a decade, maybe even two, before this catches up and we see a more even market as far as that goes.
I think you're right. It could be. And I will just tell everybody right now, I do have a crystal ball, but it's in the shop. So we'll see. They're having a hard time getting the parts to get it repaired, apparently. Everything else is in a shortage. I do want to interrupt before we get into real, meat of where this will take us, because I have some ideas, some things I want to bounce off you. But I want our audience to understand that a big part of the reason that Mason's been so successful in such a short time is because of his attitude towards taking care of his clients. Now, he didn't say anything to that effect, and you guys might not have picked up on anything to that effect, but right off the bat, there are two things that I picked up. One, he is having a hard time letting his clients do the kind of crazy shit that's going on in the buyer's market right now, like pay way above asking, like agree to these enormous appraisal gaps. The other piece of that is that Mason is actually recommending that his clients buy new builds. And Mason deals with builders, and that is a level of brain damage that we won't even get into today. And more importantly, the builders have become so popular, not for those of us that work with them, but have become so popular with their product that they are actually paying the real estate agents less, much less than they used to for bringing clients to those new builds. So right off the bat, there are two things. That, one, Mason does not want his clients spending money unnecessarily, and two, Mason is willing to take a pay cut to make sure his clients get what they need. Those are two huge things that he didn't say directly, but if you read between the lines, that's what you guys would pick up. And that is huge. That kind of care and concern for your clients is all you really need to propel yourself. The rest of it will fall into place if you really take good care of people. All right, so Mason, where do these people come from? Where do you get your clients? What kind of lead gen activities do you do? At this point, I've got to assume most of it's repeat and referral with how successful you are, the kind of volume that you're doing, the way you're taking care of people. I'm assuming a lot of it's repeat and referral.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm definitely starting to see more repeat and referral. I dip into the online lead stuff, so I convert those pretty well, I would say, as far as that goes. So, I've got realtor.com, a bunch of other, sync, stuff like that. So, I've got stuff flowing in from everywhere, but also I'm kind of big on Facebook. I think now with where I'm at, people seeing kind of the progress, start till now, people are like, hey, Mason sells houses, you got to call Mason. So that's definitely helping me out. And definitely, to touch on what you said is, taking care of people and giving them your honest opinion, and they feel that. And also, since the beginning, my whole thing was make clients for a lifetime, right? So knock it out of the park for everyone. I can't do it to every single person, but I absolutely try. There's some people you'll work your tail off for and they're still unhappy with you no matter what, but there are the clients that do appreciate you and they are in your corner. And I've got a bunch out there that, they become friends. They love me to death. I love them back. If they need a favor, I would do it for them, and I think that has helped me to propel me. And in the beginning was, if you had a couple lingering items, I was loading up my car, helping you move it, or if you need something painted and you couldn't afford it, I was painting it with you, doing that stuff that some of these older cats are just too above to do. I'm not above getting my hands dirty. My hands are still calloused. I came from hard work. I did manual labor my whole life. So I think some people can appreciate that and see that. And it's definitely helped a ton for sure. So.
All right. So there's a lesson for you older cats. I love that. All right. So give our audience just a couple of snippets. What do you think? What are the tactics and techniques in working the internet leads that you think are really helping you propel that forward? Because we all know working internet leads is tough stuff. That is hard work to get a decent conversion ratio, to make it worth the dollar spend, so on and so forth. Obviously, we're big on repeat and referral. Not necessarily an activity we would suggest or recommend or run our coaching clients through, but people are doing it. A ton of people are doing it. And the internet leads are what they are. They're not going anywhere. Let's not get into a debate over what Zillow's been doing as of late. Let's not go there. But yeah, what do you think in terms of approaching these internet leads has made you successful with them?
I would say the big change in that is I have had some coaching, with Coldwell with this, but when you get an online lead, trying not to qualify them over the phone. I think a lot of people are like, hey, I'm not showing you the house unless you're pre-qualified. I will tell you this, you're going to waste some time, but when you get those leads, they typically want to see a house, right? So I don't fight them at all. I'm like, hey, I'm free during this time and this time. Does this work? And then I go out, I show them the property, I meet them. And typically once I have that face-to-face and I can build that rapport, and then I can start going through the qualifying after that, if they do want to push forward, or maybe that's not the house for them. So the big thing there that I've changed is, not grinding them up front about, are you pre-qualified, asking them a ton of questions. I set the appointment, I get the appointment, I go to the appointment. It may not go anywhere, but, the ones that do, I would say it's more fruitful to do that versus, trying to qualify them over the phone. It kind of turns them off and they could completely go sideways on you and go, hey, never mind, forget it. I don't want to see the house anymore,
Or maybe they want to see it with somebody else.
True. And someone else might be willing to take it. That was one of my fifth deal. It's kind of a crazy story. I had a client from Texas. He wanted to see, it was still my biggest purchase. It was $575. He wanted to see this property. It was in Rock Springs, so just south of Colorado Springs on the west side. Crazy property. I had no clue what I was jumping into. I didn't, question him, or he told me he had cash. So I spent some time in Texas, and I love Texans, so I 100% trusted him. And I took him out, and he ended up telling me, he had contacted someone before me, and they wouldn't take him without a pre-qualification letter. Well, he ended up cashing out a 401k and buying that property in cash. But had I had, questioned him or, grinded him, for him, it was a pride thing. So he didn't want that because, basically it was his word telling me he had it. And, I took him for face value, and, I went out and did it. And I'm glad I did still. And since that day, I think that was a kind of a big lesson. So I haven't really changed too much from that, but definitely trying to get sharper with, setting those appointments and seeing those leads all the way through for sure.
Well, that's certainly a big piece of it. And I think there are a couple of inherent things that people working internet leads should know. And I think the big piece of it is that it should probably apply in the exact same way you're applying the rest of your lead gen activities, the rest of your relationship building activities, the rest of your audience building activities. You are building relationships. It is not strictly about the dollars. It's not strictly about the units. And if we're approaching internet leads from the position that, oh, is this going to be a deal? Yes or no? Now, is this a person that I'm going to develop a relationship with, may eventually buy a home, sell a home, may refer other people that buy homes and sell homes? Then I think you guys will all have greater success if you're going to approach everything, not just the internet leads, and I do think most successful agents, originators, etc., do approach it that way. But for those that are working internet leads, I think if you'll approach it in the same manner, that this is the precipice of a relationship. This is the first step in somebody who might be a client for life, might refer clients for life, this kind of thing. Then you probably are going to spend more time. But with the people that you would want to have a relationship with anyway, you're going to have greater success.
Yeah, and you're going to spend some time. I mean, I work for free all the time. There's times where, I go out, waste my time, show a house, but, it's part of it. It's part of, I think, part of the process. Some people, are above that, I guess, but I'll take the risk. And, I think it works out more doing it that way versus not, in my opinion. But
absolutely. No, Mason, you're absolutely right. I think that approaching guys, I think that approaching your lead generation activities in the sense that we're starting relationships, we're making friends, we're converting friends into clients, we're converting clients into advocates, people who would refer us more friends, more clients, more relationships. If we can find a way, if you guys can find a way like Mason has to kind of apply that mentality, that systemology, that series of activities to your internet leads, even though they are cold, they are complete strangers, they are in a lot of cases frustrating, in a lot of cases a waste of time and money, so on and so forth, I think you'd have more success with them. That's huge, dude. I mean, we're usually getting people who work internet leads giving us tips like contact them at the time that they were online. You know that's when they're available. And don't get me wrong, that is a good, logical, logistical tip. But the mentality of approaching internet leads in that way is, global in that sense compared to, something local like hitting them up at the time they happen to be online filling out the damn lead in the first place.
I think that's pretty common, but set the appointment. And I think knowing your product, when you get to the house, know the square footage, know the bedrooms, know the bathrooms, know the neighborhood, give some local knowledge. I mean, knock it out of the park in that showing. And I think you'll show that you actually know something, because sadly, the general public, some of them do think that realtors are not worth it. I'm just being honest. But, some of us out here do have a sharp sword, and we are, we do practice our craft, and I'm always trying to get better. And I think that's something, so in the beginning, going through the motions was, pretty easy, but I think knowing the product, knowing the house, you don't sell the house, right? But you can give them local knowledge, you can give them information about the property, really knock it out of the park, and they're like, Mason really knows his stuff. This is my guy, because you're going to meet him one time, maybe, right? So I think that's kind of important too, is just knowing the house, knowing the neighborhood, instead of just showing up, opening some doors, or just letting them kind of go around. You kind of learn your own little tour, I guess, as you go,
Sure. But what you're describing is actually do the work.
Yeah, do the work and just
don't be lazy.
Yeah.
Do your research. And here's the thing about this is that it is yet another piece in this big puzzle of you exhibiting that you want to take care of people. Mm-hmm. You are taking the time, you're investing the time at no charge, right? Not making any money when you're doing this stuff, to really help educate these people about their area, their home, the home they want to buy, whatever the case may be. And it obviously shows.
I'm trying.
Matt, seems like you're doing a pretty damn good job, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm really, really pleased. And I am going to bet that there are going to be some consumers in our audience. So this is actually a really good segue for this, because I'm always stunned at how quickly a 30-minute episode whips by. But give us some information on how people can reach you, Mason.
So you can reach me on my personal cell, 210-601-0288. You can also find me online at findhomesinColoradospringsco.com. Other than that, hit me up on Facebook. You can run me down here at the office at Coldwell, or you just might see me around town as well. But yeah.
All right, you guys heard it. Go chase him down, stalk him. Apparently Mason is open to stalkers.
Yeah,
that's always good information. Well, Mason, forgive the awkwardness of this particular episode. Obviously, not having Jen, I'm obviously not as good about this. I'm not as good at this or as smart about this as I'd like to think I am. And she'll make some commentary here later in the day, I'm sure, that will exacerbate that. And of course, we're running a little bit of new equipment when it comes to mics and cameras and software and so on and so forth. So thank you for being our guinea pig and for putting up with all of that. And yeah, I got to be straight. If you don't mind, I'm going to have Jen reach out and book you for a sequel next year.
Right, let's do it. Thanks.
All right,
appreciate it.
Yeah, no sweat. All right, and before I forget, for those of you watching, you can use that text code on the bottom of your screen if you're listening to our podcast. Text TIPS to 63566. You can get a copy of this episode, of all of our episodes when it comes to the video cast. You can get the links to the podcast. You can get the links for our video blog, The Weekly Little Tip. You can get a copy of my book, Just the Tips. You can get some information about our annual mastermind event coming up this fall. And yes, oddly enough, we were able to do one last fall. Weirdest thing ever. But neither here nor there. If you guys want more information about us, then by all means, feel free to text TIPS to 63566, and it will ping you back all that stuff. Mason, again, thank you for joining us. Don't go anywhere, buddy. I'm going to run our extra. Hopefully that works. And we will talk in just a moment. For the rest of you, thanks for watching live or in syndication or listening to the podcast, and we'll see you next week.